Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Coder. I'm Chris, and today we are going to continue on with our Pac-Man clone. We are on part 7, and that means we are going to discuss and implement how to actually consume the pellets, right? So, as Pac-Man moves, currently, we've got Pac-Man moving across the board, and we can make him go in different directions. We can even make him go left into here and come out of the other end. Which is all really cool. But we want some kind of game progression, right? So like we don't want to just be aimlessly just moving around the board. So what we want to do here is we want to make Pac-Man consume every single pellet that he gets to. So like every time he gets to a pellet, we want him to consume that pellet to show that we're making progress towards winning the level, right? So here's what we'll do is we're going to go into our tile script. Okay, this one here. And right now, the only things we've got in there are... We've got isPortal and portal receiver. Okay, those are the only two properties that our tile class has so far. What we're going to add are 3 more. Okay, so we're going to add a boolean for is pellet. Then we're going to add another one for is super pellet. And finally we're going to add one for did consume. Because we want to keep track of if the pellet has been consumed already, basically, right? So, that out of the way, we can actually get rid of our tile class. Well, not get rid of it. Move on to the next thing, which is actually going to be in our Pac-Man script. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to add to our Pac-Man script is going to be a new method. And our method is going to return a game object. Okay. And what this method is for is it's going to get the tile at our current position. So Pac-Man's current position is what's going to be passed in, and we're going to get the tile at that position. So we're going to create some integers based on our current position. So we're going to round to int, and we're going to do position x, and we're going to do the same thing for tile y, and we're going to use mathf, round to int, position.y. Okay, so that way we're always going to have an actual integer, and we're not going to try to actually get a position in the array of a floating point variable. That would lead to all kinds of problems. So game object tile equals game object dot find. Okay, I'm going to find game, and we're going to do get component game board, which is the class that's attached to the game, the game object. And we're going to get board and tile x and tile y. Okay, so that's going to be our tile. So if our tile doesn't equal null, then we want to return our tile. Otherwise, we want to return null. Okay? So, like I said, all that this does is it gets the actual tile, or let's just, for the sake of argument, call it a game object, because we're actually getting the game object. We're not getting the tile component that's attached to the game object, we're getting the entire game object, okay? We're getting the game object that's stored in the array at that position that Pac-Man's currently at. Alright? So now, we're going to make use of this. Okay, we're going to create another method, and I'm going to put it right here after update animation state. We're going to call this one consume pellet, and it's not going to return anything. Let's see here, pellet. Okay, and we're not passing in any parameters. So we're going to do game object O is what we'll call it, and we're going to do get tile at position. And then we're going to pass in this transforms position, so Pac-Man's actual position right now. Then we're going to say if O doesn't equal null, because if we're at a spot where there isn't an actual pellet or tile, then we don't want to do anything. So only if it doesn't equal null. So, and if it doesn't equal null, then we're going to use the tile class to instantiate tile game object, and we're going to get the component, the tile script, okay, of the game object that we just got back from get tile at position. Okay, so we're getting the tile component from that. Now we have to make sure that tile doesn't equal null, because it's completely entirely possible that the component that we're currently occupying doesn't have a tile class. So only if the tile component that we've just created isn't null, then we want to do other stuff. Okay, so if it's not null, then we want to check. Okay, so if it isn't null, so if our game object is in fact existing, and our game object has the tile component, which is the tile class, assigned as a component to the game object, then we want to check if that component, right? If the did consume, or actually that would be not. If tile dot did consume, so if not dot tile, if not tile dot did consume, meaning that it hasn't been consumed yet, and tile dot is pellet, or tile dot is super pellet, then we want to do stuff. Okay, so let me just explain this line of code real quick. If not tile dot did consume, that basically means that if tile dot did consume equals no, if it equals false, okay, then we're still good to go on whatever happens in here. But we also are adding an and condition to that. And the reason that I have parentheses around this or condition is because you can't have an and an or condition in the same logic. It just doesn't make any sense. So what we do is the same thing with math. Well, this is basically Boolean math. We're doing and or. So what we're doing here is we're putting this in parentheses. We're saying if tile dot is pellet and tile dot is super pellet, or if either one of these is true, then we're going to have a yes here. Okay? If both of them are false, then we're going to have a no. If both of them are true, we're going to have a yes. If this is false, we're going to have a yes. And if this is true, we're going to have a no. So if this and this, then we can go in here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And if it does, okay, so then we're going to use the get component method of our game object. Okay, and we're going to grab the sprite renderer component, and we're just going to set its enable property to false. We're going to make that pellet go away. Okay. So then we're going to set tile.didConsume equal to true. And that right there is all that really is needed to make those tiles go away. There's really nothing else we got to do. In theory, because I haven't tested this yet. So let's have a look and see what's going on. Alright, let's press play. And nothing's happening. Oh, you know why? There is one more thing we gotta do. And that is, I'm sure you guys already guessed it, but we've got this consume pellet method out here, and we're not calling it at all. So we need to go back up here into our update method, and I'm just gonna go under, basically after the update animation state, and I'm gonna say consume pellet. So this gets run every frame. It's going to check to see if there's a pellet to be consumed, and if there is, it's going to basically disable the sprite renderer for that pellet. So let's have a look. And of course it's still not going to work. Why? Because we didn't tag any of these pellets. So we have to do something tedious, and I thought we were done with the monotonous stuff of this game, but unfortunately we are not. So if you'll look at all the pellets, we now have and we don't even have tile classes on them. That's just sad. That is incredibly sad. All right. So let's see what we've got here. This. These. Oh no. Alright, so I'm just gonna select them all in the hierarchy, because that is going to be the easiest way to go about it, rather than actually just Alright, so these pellets, we're going to add component, we're going to add the tile class, we're going to tell it that is a pellet. Okay. And the same thing for these other pellets. I know they're nodes, but we're going to tell them that they're pellets. Alright. So now we have to go around and do a little bit of damage control, because we just basically selected almost everything on the board. Alright, so we've got these super pellets here. These are tagged as pellets now. We need to uncheck that and tag that as a super pellet. Same thing as over here. Super pellet. This guy. Super pellet. And this one. Also a super pellet. And we can... Alright, so we didn't check these as pellets, but these got deselected as portals because we re-added the tile script, which... Okay, so we broke something here. So this is pellet 129 and this is 128. So 128 needs 129. We'll just do it this way. Drag and drop. 129. And 129 needs 128. Alright. And let's double check that these also got tagged. So let's remove. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that none of these, okay, these are all still good. Alright, so play. And we're eating pellets. And I'm going to go around the entire board and consume all the pellets just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And whenever you guys are creating games, just remember that, you know, testing is so very important to game design, to make sure that there literally is, you know, there are no bugs. You're always going to have some bugs show up, because people always find ways to do things differently than you've intended them to be done. And that's where the bugs come in. Alright, so we've already got one pellet that we've missed, which is odd. And there's the second one. And we're going to figure out what these pellets are. It's extremely possible that I may have also had some duplicate pellets, which this will help us find these. Alright, so it looks like we only messed up a little bit. So let's have a look and see what these are. Okay, so this one, pellet 196, is marked as a pellet. Which is strange. This one, what's the difference here? This one has a node. This one has no node. Well, that's interesting. Pellet 29, pellet 31, pellet 32. So out of curiosity, pellet 31, I'm going to remove you and see what's going on here. Well, it's got no node because it doesn't have a node. But why in the heck is it not being added to the array? It's got nothing to do with tags. So why didn't Pac-Man grab it? Why is Pac-Man not grabbing the pellet? In our game board, we've got if o.name does not equal Pac-Man. In order to fix this, what we really should be doing is here we're checking to see if our game object's name doesn't equal Pac-Man, right? But we also don't want anything else to be... no, that's not right. We want the name to also not equal o.name doesn't equal nodes. Oh, and we have to put and signs. And o.name doesn't equal non-nodes. So we don't want those two game objects to be added to the array. Alright, so let's go ahead and add. We also don't want maze. Name doesn't equal maze. And o.name doesn't equal pellets. So we don't want pellets, maze, non-nodes, nodes, or any of that stuff to be added. So we're going to say, okay, we're not adding it if the name doesn't equal, or if the name equals anything other than these, then we'll add it to the array. Otherwise, we just won't. So let's click play. And let's go back and have a look here. And he got pellet 196, just like you should have. All right, that actually makes me feel a lot better now, because for a second there I just wasn't sure what was going on, but it's because, all right, when I originally built this game to test everything out, I didn't very neatly categorize everything like I did here. I didn't create parents to put all these pellets into and the maze and everything else. Everything was just in the hierarchy, and there was no organization whatsoever. So because we've created all these parents, the elements inside the parents, the game objects, those positions are now relative to the parents, and then when we get positions to add to the array, if we're also having to add the parents because, you know, they're game objects that exist on our scene, And when we iterate over all the game objects that exist in our scene, and we only add, when we add everything except for Pac-Man, then all those extra parents that we created, those empties, are going to be added into the array as well. So, and if a pellet was written first, then the parent will be overwritten, or the pellet will be overwritten with one of the parents. Alright, so hopefully that helps explain it. We now have the ability to consume all the pellets. We can go through portals. Oh, the next video is going to be about scoring. So you collect a pellet, and you want to start building a score, right? Because every time you collect the pellet, it's a point. So every time you get a point, you get a score, update, and everything else. And we're going to show how to display it in the UI and all that stuff. So stick around for that for the next video. I'll see you guys next week. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Comments go down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good one.